So you may call its next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Charles McMillan.
If you could just stand there for a second. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth? Have a seat. And first of all, if you feel comfortable, we'd appreciate it if you could remove your mask because it'll be easier to hear you. I'll keep my mask on so that we have as much protection. And we're going to test out the microphone and how it works with you. So if you could state your full name, spelling each of your names.
First name, Charles McMillan, C-H-A-R-L-E-S. Last name, McMillan, capital M-C-M-I-L-L-I-A-N.
Thank you. Ms. Aldridge.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing today?
Okay.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to start with some questions about your background, and then we'll move on from there, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
So could you tell the jury how old you are?
61 years old,
And how far did you go in school?
3rd grade.
And what city do you live in?
Here in Hennepin County.
And you're in Hennepin County. Are you in Minneapolis?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to ask you some questions about Memorial Day, May 25th of last year. Do you live in an area close to Cup Foods?
Yes, I do.
And that evening on May 25th, were you driving by that area?
Yes, I was.
And what kind of car do you drive?
I drive a 2006 Dodge Caravan Blue.
Okay, is that a van?
Yes, ma'am.
So, when you were in the area of 38th and Chicago, did something draw your attention?
Yes, it did.
What was that? What did you see?
I was at the red light going south, and at the time I was going to go east on the 38. That was to my left, and when I got there to make a left turn, I see an interaction with a car with a man and with a police officer.
So I'm going to show you a map. If we could put up Exhibit 1, please. All right, so you were talking about where you were. Using this map that's up on the screen, could you just describe, you can actually use your, there's a little pen there, stylus pen, you can use that to sort of show the jury on the screen where you were and where you were headed.
Hard for me to see because I'm old. I can describe it better by itself because I can't hardly see what's going on.
Okay.
I was on the corner of 38th in Chicago.
All right.
To make a left to go east towards 42nd and Hiawatha. So I was right on the corner of 38th in Chicago.
So you were headed east on 38th Street, is that right?
Yes, which would be right here.
Okay, perfect. And you just made a mark at that intersection there where in the direction you were headed, which was eastbound, is that right?
Yes.
All right. And when you were headed down 38th, you said you saw an interaction with somebody and some police officers. What did you see at that point?
Well, when I made the left, I seen a blue. There was a Mercedes-Benz truck on the right side with a police officer standing at the door. So I automatically made a right turn and pulled over.
And what made you decide to stop and pull over?
Being nosy, just being nosy. I'm in the neighborhood. I'm a nosy person.
Did you want to know what was going on?
Yes, being nosy. That's what it was.
So when you first approached that area, you said an officer standing next to a blue Mercedes truck.
With the door open.
With the door open. Did you see what the officer was doing at that point?
No, not at the time.
Okay. So you said you decided you wanted to pull over, see what was going on.
Get out, yes.
All right. So did you drive up the street a little bit and then park?
Immediate park, got out.
Okay. So when you got out, what'd you do?
I walked across I went to the other side of the street.
All right. And would that be the Cup Food side of the street?
Yes.
Okay. So what'd you do on the other side of the street?
I engaged in what was going on by watching.
Okay. So what did you see from the Cup Food side of the street?
Basically, I seen the officer, was asking Mr. Floyd to get out the truck. And shortly after they got Mr. Floyd out the truck and they walked over to the sidewalk where they allowed, just walked over to the sidewalk behind Mr. Floyd's truck.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there. We'll just break it down a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
You said you saw the officers getting Mr. Floyd out of the truck. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you say Mr. Floyd. Did you know who he was at the time?
No, ma'am.
Did you later learn that that man was George Floyd?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you saw, how many officers at that time did you see interacting with Mr. Floyd?
I want to say one at the time, then another one walked over to help him.
Okay. So tell the jury about that. What did you see the first officer do, and then what happened next? So we'll start from that point.
Well, when I got out my truck and started watching, I basically just seen the officer asking Mr. Floyd to get out. And from that point on, I don't want to say, the other officer walked up to the truck where the other officer was. The other officer was on the other side, so he walked up to where the officer was trying to get Mr. Floyd that truck. I said, and I heard a couple words, I don't know what it was, and then they finally got Mr. Floyd out the truck, handcuffed and walked him down.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there. So first you saw one officer interacting on the driver's side of the car
Yes.
with Mr. Floyd. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you said there was another officer who was on the passenger side initially of that blue Mercedes truck. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then I think you're describing that eventually that officer on the passenger side came over to assist on the driver's side. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you said that those officers got Mr. Floyd handcuffed. Did you see that happen?
No, I didn't. No, I don't not recall it.
So what did you see while you were standing on the Cup Food side of the street happen at the next to that SUV?
Well, after that, I seen, because I was looking away, but then when I turned back and looked, I did see Mr. Floyd handcuffed. Then they started to walk him down the sidewalk.
So you didn't see the very moment he was
No,
handcuffed,
ma'am.
but you
No.
did see that he ended up in handcuffs.
Yes, ma'am.
And were you looking around you, but not focused the entire time on, what the exact moment was that he was handcuffed?
No. I
Okay.
didn't.
So you said that he was handcuffed, and then you said they walked him across the street. So can you describe or show on the map what you saw happen next? All right, so if you could just put either a line or a mark where you saw them walking. Can we enlarge it? Is that possible?
It was on the right-hand side, but I can't see what that little restaurant is on the right side.
Okay, so let's take off the enlarged portion just for a second there.
It was a little small restaurant on my right-hand side behind the truck.
Okay,
That's what I'm looking for, and I can't see it.
all right. Would that be the Dragon Walk restaurant?
Yes, a little restaurant on the corner.
Okay, so was that where the officers that you saw walked with Mr. Floyd at that point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you said he was in handcuffs.
Yes, ma'am.
Was Mr. Floyd walking across the street?
Yes, he was walking up the sidewalk with them.
And then what happened?
He said something about he said something. I can't quote right what he said, but whatever he said, they let him sit down.
Okay, and were you watching that part of the interaction where he was sitting down?
Yes, ma'am.
And where were you? Were you still on the
I
cup?
was still on the Cub pool side.
Okay, and I'm going to try not to talk over you, but if we could just wait for the question and then you can answer, and then I'll try not to.
Yes, ma'am.
Try to do the
Not
same
a problem. Thank you.
thing. Okay, just because we got someone taking it all down. All right, so you are on the cup food side. You see them sit him down at the Dragon Walk. Could you hear what was going on in terms of the whole conversation?
No, ma'am.
Okay, but you were watching what was going on. Is that
Yes.
right? All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Did they move again after that?
Yes, ma'am. They helped him guide up off the sidewalk.
Okay, and then after he got up off the sidewalk, where did they go?
They went north across the street at the red light, which would be going north through the red light.
So did they head toward Cup Foods at that point?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and where were you? Did you stay where you were, or did you follow?
I just went on down the sidewalk almost to the front edge of the Cub pool,
Okay,
to the stoplight.
and I'm going to put can you take this down, please? Thank you. Did we show you some pictures and videos from that day prior to your testimony in court today? Did you see some videos and pictures on a previous date when we met before?
Yes, I did.
All right. I'm going to put up, just for you but not for the jury, what we've marked as Exhibit 38, please. All right. Do you see that in front of you?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recognize yourself in that picture?
Yes, I do.
And is that what you looked like on May 25th and what you were
Yes.
wearing? All right. We would offer Exhibit 38.
All right, 38 is received.
All right. And we will publish that to the jury. All right. So now the jury is getting to see that's what you were wearing. That's what you looked like on May 25th. Is that right?
Yes.
And so it looks like you're walking down the sidewalk. You're talking about getting closer. Did you get closer at that point?
Yes, I was getting closer.
Okay. We can take that down, please. So after you see the officers walk Mr. Floyd toward the Cup Foods and you're getting closer, what do you see then?
I see them come through the intersection with Mr. Floyd, and I was just standing and observing like I was doing. And when they came through the intersection, they went on to the car with him.
And when you say the car, what car are you referring to?
The squad car.
Okay. So they were taking Mr. Floyd to the squad car at that point? Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And was he still handcuffed at that point?
Yes, ma'am.
And was Mr. Floyd walking with those officers?
Yes, ma'am.
And was it just those two officers at that point?
Yes.
Did you know either of those two officers?
No.
Okay. And then did you continue to observe after they got to that squad car?
Yes, I did.
And what did you see then?
Just standing and observing them, get him into the car, and as they get him in the car, I'm just paying attention like I always was.
And was Mr. Floyd saying anything at that point in time?
Yes, he was.
And were you engaging in a conversation with Mr. Floyd as well?
Yes, I was.
So tell the jury just a little bit about what was going on in that moment.
At the time I was engaged with him, the officer was, trying to get him in the car and everything, talking to him, and I was telling Mr. Floyd, just ply with him, get on in the car because you can't win. Something to that nature.
Okay. And before, as you were watching Mr. Floyd walk up to the squad car, he was seated down and then he was walked across the street. Any of those moments in time, did you see Mr. Floyd fighting or being violent with the officers from the moment he was taken out of the car until he was sat down and then walked across the street?
No.
Okay. And then you're describing what was going on, and he was handcuffed, you described that whole time, is that right?
Yes.
And then you're talking about them trying to get him into the car. Did we previously show you a video that showed your position and what you were watching, as well as what one of the officers' body cameras showed was going on at that moment? Did you see video of that on a previous date?
Yes.
And did that show accurately and fairly what you saw, as well as what you heard and what was going on with respect to Mr. Floyd at the squad car? Did that show what was happening?
Yes.
Okay. And just so I'm clearly describing it to you, I know you saw a number of videos. There was one that had a view from one of the officer's body cameras combined with a surveillance camera that was showing where you were standing. And that's what we've marked as Exhibit 39. And you said that video showed what you were doing and what you saw and heard. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, I'd offer Exhibit 39.
39 is received.
And we will publish that now. And does that show you walking by? Can we just pause it for one moment? Before we play, the top screen, does that show where you're standing next to the squad car?
Yes.
And can you just point yourself out on that top screen? And then on the other video that's embedded within what's shown here, that shows the officer and Mr. Floyd at the car. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We will clear that, and then we will continue to play. Thank you.
I don't want to win. I'm claustrophobic. You ain't gonna win. I'm claustrophobic. I got anxiety. I don't want to do nothing to them. Man, I'm scared as fuck, man.
You made a mistake somewhere.
When I start breathing, it's gonna go off on me, man. Okay. Let me count to three. And I'm going in.
Pause it right there, please. All right, we're at 18:07. Now, just to sort of summarize what's happened thus far, are you having a conversation with Mr. Floyd at that point?
Yes, ma'am.
And what's going on in that conversation?
It's going on a conversation that I'm watching, Mr. Floyd saying he clasped over to the back seat of the police car. And I'm trying to get him to understand that when you make a mistake, once they get you a cup, it's no certain thing as being clasped over. You're going to go with them. And I was trying to get him to go.
Okay, and you were saying, is it your voice saying things like you can't win?
Yes, ma'am.
And why were you saying that?
Because I have had interaction with officers myself, and I understand once you get in the cup, you can't win. You're done.
Okay.
It's just the way I have looked at it.
So were you trying to just help him to...
Make the situation easy.
Got it. So you were trying to make the situation easier. And there were some comments about, I'm claustrophobic, and then I believe there was a response. Were you having a conversation with Mr. Floyd at that point in time?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you feel like he was hearing you and understanding what you were saying?
Yes, ma'am.
And like you said, you were just trying to make it easier and help. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at some point, again, we have this stopped at 8:18:07. Did some other officers arrive?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you know any of the other officers who arrived?
Yes, ma'am.
And who did you know?
Mr. Chauvin right there.
And if you can point to him on the screen, you're pointing there. So you've made a mark with the arrow pointing to Mr. Chauvin. How did you know Mr. Chauvin?
5 days prior to this happening, I pulled up on the squad car somewhere in South Minneapolis, and I seen Mr. Chauvin, and I told him, like I tell all officers, at the end of the day, you go home to your family safe, and let the next person go home to their family safe.
So you had just met him in the community a few days prior, is that right?
I had seen him in the community prior to them, but that, the day I pulled up on him, I gave him the recommendation of what I said.
Okay, so you had seen him 5 days or so prior, had a conversation with him, but you had known him in the community before that as well, is that right?
I had seen him riding through the community, not knowing him.
Okay, so you recognized him as an officer in the community?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I apologize. I'll try to slow down. You try to slow down. We'll both take a breath. And then we'll
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I'm going to try not to talk over you. Do my best. All right. Okay. So I'm going to let the video play, and then we can pause it for some follow-up. So go ahead. Thank you.
You can't win. I'm not trying to win. I'm not trying to win. I'll get on the ground, anything. I'll get in the car. He know it. He know it too, Mr. Officer. Y'all hear me? Don't do me like that, man.
Get in the car.
Okay, can I talk to you, please?
Yes, you get in this car. We can talk.
I am claustrophobic. I'm
hearing you, but
claustrophobic,
you're not
man.
working with me.
God, I'm claustrophobic, man.
Get in the car.
Man.
Get in the
Can you
car.
put me in the front? Please.
No, you're not getting in the
I'm
front.
claustrophobic, Mr. Officer.
Get in the car.
Okay, man, okay? I'm not a bad guy, man.
Get in the car.
I'm not a bad guy. Oh, man. Please, officer. Please.
Sit.
Please.
Take a seat.
Please, man. Please. No.
Take a seat.
I can't choke. I can't breathe, officer. Please.
Fine.
My wrist, man. Please. I can't. And I'm on the ground. I'm on the ground. I'm going down.
Get in the squad.
I'm going down. I'm not gonna lose, man.
Bro, you gonna die of a heart attack, man.
I know I can't breathe.
Get in the car.
I can't COVID, man. I can't breathe.
Take a seat.
Please, man. Please listen to me.
Does he want to jail?
Listen to me.
He's under arrest right now for forgery.
I tell you.
Can we figure out what's going on?
For what? Take him out. For what? Please, man. I can't fucking breathe.
Here, come on out.
Look at you. Thank you.
Get him on the ground. Yeah, on the ground. On the ground.
My wrist. Right.
You got your restraint? Hobble?
I can't breathe. I can't
I'll
breathe.
grab that. Once we get him.
Jesus. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Thank you. I can't breathe.
Stop moving.
Mama.
Yeah,
Mama.
it's in the,
Mama.
one of the front pouches
Mama.
on my right side bag.
Mama.
You're under arrest, guy.
All right. Oh my God.
That's why you go to jail.
I can't believe this. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. I can't believe this,
Can we
man.
stop it right here, please?
Mama, look.
Mr. McMahon. Do you need a minute?
Oh my
You just take your time. Let us know when you're ready.
We'll just give you a moment, Mr. McGon. I'm not sure if there's water for you as well. Oh, if you need a break to get some water, let me know, and we can take a break. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you.
You okay?
Yeah.
I know that this is difficult. Can you just explain sort of what you're feeling in this moment?
I feel helpless. I don't have a mama either. I understand him. My mom died June 25th.
Hang on just 1 second, Mr.
Let's take a 10-minute break.
We'll take a little break.
Hey, sir. How you doing?
Come on, sir. Yes, sir.
All set to roll?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You want to leave the mask on or off?
Oh, no, too hot.
Okay, understood. He's over.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, Mr. McMillan. We have the video paused for a minute. I'm just going to maybe ask you some questions about that, and then we can move on from there, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So we have it stopped at 8:20:51. What did you see at the beginning of this clip in terms of the officers putting Mr. Floyd in the car? Can you just describe what you saw from your perspective?
Well, what I'm standing there looking at now, with where they are with Mr. Floyd on the passenger side of the car, with the trunk of Mr. Vane, other officers was trying to get some scrap, what you call hog tie. So that's what I'm engaging in right now. But
okay, so in this image right now, where it's frozen at 8:20:51, can you just point out where you are? And you said you're talking about the other officer, and I think you used the word hog tie. Can you just describe what you meant by that?
I guess he was looking for some scraps where they tie you up.
Okay, so where we have this video stopped, you were watching. Yes. Sorry. Is that better?
Yeah, you can stay right in the middle of that.
Okay. And I just want to make sure you can hear me and I can hear you. I have trouble hearing with all the plexiglass and masks, so I apologize. So could you describe what you're seeing at that point?
I'm seeing Mr. Floyd on the ground.
And is anyone else on the ground?
Will you repeat that again, please?
Yeah. Is anyone with him on the ground?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what do you see in terms of the other officers?
I see two officers on the back of him, and I see the officer in the front with him. And I see Mr. Chow, that's who in the trunk of the car.
Okay. And you're, I think you said Mr. Chow or Mr. Vang. Did you know the other officer who was at the back of the car? Did you know who he was, that officer at the back?
No, ma'am. I
Okay.
didn't know who he was.
Did you, and you don't know his name today, do you?
Chow, whatever. I don't really know his name. But
Okay. But another officer that you weren't familiar with at that time?
no, ma'am.
Okay. And what about Officer Chauvin? You said you knew him, is that right?
I didn't know his name at the time, but I know of him in the squad car and what I had said to him 5 days ago, but I didn't know who he was.
So you later realized that you knew
His name, yes,
his
ma'am.
name. Okay. All right. So I'm going to back you up a little bit. Before these officers were on the ground with Mr. Floyd, and there's an officer at the back, at the beginning of this clip, they were getting him into the car. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at that time, you were having a conversation with Mr. Floyd. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then were you continuing to have a conversation with Mr. Floyd throughout this process?
I can't recall what's that right now.
Okay. But did you hear Mr. Floyd speaking?
Yes, ma'am.
And then at times, were you also speaking to him?
I want to say yes.
Okay. And anything you said that's captured on camera, that would have been what you said in that moment. Is that right? Over the course of the time of your interaction with Mr. Floyd?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, what stood out to you about what Mr. Floyd was saying when you saw him on the ground?
When he kept saying, "I can't breathe," and when he said, "Mama, they're killing me," and they're killing me, that's what I kept hearing. "I can't breathe, Mama, they're killing me." Then when he started saying, my body's shutting down.
And was it your voice somewhere in the middle of all this saying, "Get up and get in the car." Was that you?
Yes, ma'am.
And why were you saying that? What were you trying to do at that point?
I was trying to help him.
And how did he look to you after this continued, when you said he was saying, "Mama, and I can't breathe"? How did he appear to be to you?
He appeared to be in and out with the foam running out his mouth.
And you said you saw foam running out of
Yes,
his mouth?
white foam around his mouth and stuff.
Okay. And you said in and out. What do you mean by that?
Talking, like,
Okay.
you know, I don't know how, I can't really describe it, but he was,
Did you hear him talking at one point, and then did he later stop talking?
I heard him keep trying to ask them to let him up so he can't breathe. And then even I said to the officer, I said, "Man, he said he can't breathe." And they said, "Well, if he keep talking, he can breathe."
Okay. Is it okay with you if I play this
Keep it.
clip? Okay,
Yes,
we'll
ma'am.
keep playing it if you're ready for it.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am.
All right.
Please, I love you.
You got hobble?
Just my kids, I love them. I'm dead.
Mine's in my side. It's listed. It's labeled. It says hobble. It's in
I
the
can't
top.
breathe for nothing, man. It's cold blooded, man. Ah, ah,
You're doing a lot
Mama, I love you. I can't do nothing.
Yeah, EMS is on their way.
My face is gone. I can't breathe, man. Please, please let me stand.
No.
Please, man, I can't breathe.
You get up on the sidewalk, please. One side or the other, please.
My face getting up bad.
Okay, so we get his legs up.
Oh, that's all right.
Nope, just leave him.
Oh,
Just
my
leave him.
God.
Leave him. Yep, just leave him.
Ah,
All right.
I'm dead.
The card's still sitting on the
Oh,
car.
look at my face, man.
All right. And you were describing, you said a hog tie, or you saw an officer maybe going to get one. Did you ever see the officers use any kind of tie or other type of restraint for Mr. Floyd?
No, they did not.
Okay. I'm going to take this video down. And we're going to put up another one, but I'm just going to not play it. It's going to be Exhibit 16 that's already admitted. If we could just put that up on the screen. Yes, on the jury screen as well. I believe it's already admitted into evidence. So this is Exhibit 16, which is a video clip that there is, this is not playing. It's marked 8:20:05 is the timestamp. Do you see where you were standing in this particular image?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you just point yourself out? All right. And what do you see the officers doing from your perspective on the street?
I see Mr. Lane, that's the first officer right there, that hold him down. They got his knee on his neck, between the neck and back, holding him down. The other officer really can't see around him, but look like they holding George Floyd down also.
Okay. So you talked about, did you see 3 officers with Mr. Floyd?
Yes, ma'am. I see 4 officers all together, but 3 of them is on Mr. Floyd, one
Okay.
standing in the back door.
And looking at this picture, can you tell which officer was which at this moment?
First officer is Mr. Chauvin.
Okay,
I don't
when-
know the other.
All right, so let's just stop right there. When you say Mr. Chauvin, can you tell where Mr. Chauvin is in this picture, or is it too difficult to see in this picture? All right, can you actually press that again if you're trying to point to Mr. Chauvin? Okay, so the officer that you've just identified with an arrow, is that the one you recognized as Mr. Chauvin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then there were 2 other officers you described on top of him, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then a 4th officer standing at the back of the truck, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If it's okay with you, I'd like to play just a little bit of this video. Are you ready for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Go ahead. And this part of the video doesn't have audio, but does that show you in the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
And at some point, do you just step back a little bit out of the frame? Is that you walking off right there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we're going to fast forward a little bit. But during this time, you're watching what's going on. You're just not on the frame of this video. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So moving forward to 8:21:30, we'll just play a little bit of this here. Go ahead. And you come back into frame there.
Let him breathe, least, man. I can't breathe. I've been
Pause
trying
it
to
for
get
just 1 second. Do you see yourself back
Yes,
on
ma'am.
the screen? Okay. All right, go ahead.
So let him breathe a little bit more. Neck, man. One of my homies died. He went back before he got. I'm about to die, just say. Why? Man, I can't breathe my face. Just get up. What do you want? I can't breathe. Please, the knee in my neck. I can't breathe shit. Bro, get up, get in the car, man. I will. Get up, get in the car. I can't move. I've been waiting the whole time, man. Get up, get in the car. Mama. Get up and get in the car right. I can't. I gave y'all the opportunity to get in, bro. I told you can't win. My knee. You can't win, man. I'm through. I know you in there, but you didn't listen. That's the food. My stomach hurts. My neck hurts. Everything hurts. Get some water or something. Please. Please. I can't breathe all the time.
Shut up.
They're gonna kill me. They're gonna kill me, man. Bro, with your feet on his neck, man, you get out the
His nose is bleeding. Like, come on now.
That's wrong right there with his feet on his neck.
Look at his nose.
You see your knee on his neck.
Yeah, you got your feet right on his neck.
He ain't even resisting the rest.
I cannot breathe.
You just a grown, you're a tough guy. You're a tough guy, huh? I say you're a tough guy. You're not even resisting the rest, bro.
His whole nose is bleeding.
Fight with him? Bro, why
You
you
can stop it there, please. So there's someone in that clip who says, you know, your knee on his neck, that's wrong, man, something like that. Was that you?
Yes, ma'am.
And there are also, before that, some statements about you can't win, get up and get in the car. Was that also you?
Yes, ma'am.
Again, was that what you were describing earlier, just trying to help with him? Could you describe what you were trying to do at that point?
Basically, what I'm saying, he can't win because once, like I said before, once the police get the cops on you, you can't win. So I'm trying to tell him just cooperate with him. Get up if you can, get in the car, go with him. You can win.
And did he say "I can't" to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you understand him to be talking to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you were saying, you know, your knee on his neck, what were you concerned in that moment?
Yes, ma'am.
And why was that?
Because he's saying I can't breathe. You know, my stomach hurt. You know, he's saying things that make me believe that he's in trouble.
When you say in trouble, what do you mean by that?
He's gonna die.
Did you stay, and I'm not going to keep playing this clip, we can take it down, but did you continue to watch what was going on?
Yes, ma'am.
And eventually did you see an ambulance come?
Yes, ma'am.
At any point in time, did you see Mr. Chauvin or any of the officers give any medical attention, help give CPR, anything like that for Mr. Floyd?
No, ma'am.
And did you see Mr. Chauvin or any of the officers get off Mr. Floyd before the ambulance came?
No, ma'am.
And while you were watching that, did your concerns increase over time, the longer it went on?
Yes, ma'am.
And why was that?
It grew because when the paramedics arrived for Mr. Floyd, I knew then in my mind and my instinct it was over for Mr. Floyd. He was dead.
After the paramedics arrived and then left the scene, did you have some additional interaction with Mr. Chauvin?
Yes, I did.
And prior to today, did we show you some video clips of that interaction?
Yes, you did.
And we've marked those clips as Exhibit 40 and 41, but reviewing those two clips, did they fairly and accurately show your interaction with Mr. Chauvin on May 25th, that date?
Yes, it did.
Your Honor, I'd offer Exhibits 40 and 41.
Any objection? 40 and 41 are received.
And Your Honor, I'd ask to publish Exhibit 40. And before we press play, one of these videos, Exhibit 40, contains a composite, so a video showing you as well as Mr. Chauvin's perspective from his body camera. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's play Exhibit 40. And is that you walking down the street?
Yes, ma'am.
That man gonna hunt you for the rest of your life. I just like the phone. I tried to get in the car. How you doing, man? I know you. You know me from over. Yeah. That's why I said it. I ain't anybody. That was 2 weeks ago. Huh? Yeah. I just hate him to get put on his neck. I know you resist the ball.
So that can be, we can pause it right there, but that can be difficult to hear. What was it that you were saying to Mr. Chauvin at that time?
I can't recall, but in my mind that I said to Mr. Chauvin, in an act I think it was like 5 days ago. I'm not quite sure, but I know in my mind what I did say to him. I think I said to him 5 days ago, I told you at the end of the day, go home to your family safe, let the next person go home to their family safe. But the dad got to look at you as a maggot.
Okay. And so your interaction continued with him in over these two clips. Is that right? Did he move his car at some point?
Either that clip or the other clip. Yes, he did.
Okay. And then did you also have another conversation with him as well?
I think so.
And initially, did you remark about his foot on his neck or something to that effect?
I can't recall.
Okay. But if it's there, it would be in the videos.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And again, some of these can be difficult to hear. Can we put up Exhibit 41, please?
Can you advise the fire department if they're still with you, they need to go to 36 Park to assist with the patient?
But I feel respecting you here.
That's one person's opinion.
But no, I gotta get him. I gotta get him in the car.
We gotta control this guy because he's a sizable guy.
Yeah, and I tried to get in the car.
Looks like he's probably on something.
But I'm just saying, you know, other people looking at it. But no, I got nothing bad to say about you because you respect me, I'm gonna keep respecting you.
Right.
You have a good night. You go home safely to your family. Let other people do the same.
Okay, so there's a voice that's heard. There are two voices. Which voice is yours?
The one that when I told him I'm going to respect him at the end of the night, you go home to your family safe and let the next person go home to his family safe.
And whose voice is the other voice?
Mr. Chauvin.
And one of the voices was saying something to the effect of, I don't respect what you did, or something like that. Was that your voice or Mr. Chauvin's voice?
My voice.
Okay. And was Mr. Chauvin's voice the other voice on that?
Yes.
And what were you trying to do at that point in time when you were talking to Mr. Chauvin? Why did you feel the need to talk to Mr. Chauvin?
Because what I watched was wrong.
And did you feel it was important to tell him that?
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Nelson. Sure. All right, thank you, sir. You may step down. And if you could take the water with you, that'd be great. The bottle of water that's right over there.
Thank you. Mean I'm done?
You are done. Thank you for coming in. Oh, sidebar? Okay. Members of the jury, we're going to take a 20-minute break. Counsel are going to confer on possible ways that we can streamline some of the testimony that's coming up. So it's going to be a productive break for them. Take 20 minutes, and we'll see you back here roughly around 2:40. Thank you.